Welcome back. So, chapter 14. Oh lord, oh lord. Chapter 14. If you've played FE6 before, you know that this chapter is infamous. Even if you haven't played FE6, if you're just familiar with Fire Emblem, you probably know that this chapter is pretty infamous. And for good reason. There is a large number of reasons why this chapter is so bad. The first reason, or rather the first two reasons, we can already see in effect here. Desert chapter and Fog of War. Desert chapter cuts your unit's movement. It depends on the class. I think it's like half for most units. Cavalry in particular get very affected by it. Half our army, or at least a lot of our good units, is cavalry. Marcus and Lance get neutered. Sue is very ineffective. Bors has one move. Bors has one move for the whole map. He's even more dead weight than he usually is, which is saying something. And the only units that have unaffected move are mages or flyers, of course. We've seen Milady going up to the top left for a reason I'll explain in a minute. So that in and of itself is really annoying to play around. Then you've got the fact that it's a Fog of War chapter, so I'm lucky because I can see what the map looks like and where the enemies are on a website before I start playing. But unless you commit that to memory, or especially if this is the first time you're playing the map, all these enemy placements and stuff is going to be completely unknown to you. It's going to be really hard to play around. Another reason this map sucks is you get two new units this chapter, and they're both awful. The first one is Cecilia, and then Sophia. The two units are just traded right then and there. Cecilia is the unit we saw getting her shit kicked in by Zephiel last chapter. She's not very good as a unit. If you haven't promoted Chlorine by this point, then she can sort of take over that role without having to give Chlorine a guiding ring. But in terms of combat and just stats in general, she's not fantastic. But even worse is Sophia. Sophia is a level 1 Dark Mage. Level 1 in chapter 14, which is about halfway through the game. And not only is she level 1, her stats are god awful. She is, in my opinion, the second worst unit in all of Fire Emblem. Out of every single recruitable unit you can get in the entire series, I'd say she's the second worst. Purely because she's magic as opposed to Wendy, who we saw earlier, who is an Armor Knight at level 1. But Wendy does have the advantage of coming earlier and not joining in the middle of a goddamn Fog of War desert chapter. So basically for the entire map we're going to have Sophia being carried by Cecilia since they're both useless and aren't going to fight. So I've already made a lot of moves, a lot's gone on while I've explained why this chapter's bad, or rather why it's just not fun. There's another reason, long-range staves. There's 2 or 3 long-range staves in this map. One of them is silence, one of them is sleep. And that's really annoying, of course. A lot of our units have poor res, which means that basically all the sleep staves will hit their targets. Luckily for us, we do have a restore staff. We actually do have 2 restore staves, so we can get rid of the status, but that means spending a turn with Saul, which means he's not healing, and that's bad because Lilina isn't anywhere near the party. And now I will explain why Lilina is not near the party. It's because in the desert there are hidden items that you can find just by chance, just by walking over certain areas of the map. I'm gonna get a level up from Lance here. Brilliant level up. Well done. So in the bottom left where Lilina is the speed wings. I really wanted the speed wings. Very important item. I considered restarting every time I didn't get the speed wings on the first turn, but it ended up not mattering for this particular run. You could also find a pair of boots this map in about the area where the bulk of my army is right now. Unfortunately, I didn't end up finding them ever. I could have sworn I did. I definitely did on other runs, but it seems that I've either misplaced them in my inventory and I'm just being stupid right now, or I never found them. I guess we'll see by the end of the chapter. It's really unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. They would have probably gone to Bors anyway, and Bors wouldn't be that much better for it. It's fine, really. It's just unfortunate. So Milady has gone up to the top left. She's going to get a silver card, or she's going to try to. Silver cards cut the price of items from shops and vendors in half when you buy them. Obviously very useful, I don't need to explain to you why that's good. although I don't believe I end up finding it. So there's the speed wings, thank god. Lilina needs to find those speed wings sooner rather than later. If she doesn't find them by, say, turn 4, then I'd consider that run a failure, because a bunch of reinforcements will spawn and they will absolutely demolish her. Not to mention that she's useful just having closer to my army because she can heal. Milady has to brave 4 Wyvern Riders, one of which is a promoted Wyvern Lord. She can do this. The hit rates from the enemies are not particularly high, and she'll only engage 2 of them at a time, so she can take care of them relatively easily. She also doubles now that she's been given the speed wings, which is something I did early in the chapter. She doesn't do all that much damage, but it's enough to 2-round KO the unpromoted Wyvern Lord, and with Wolt's help, the promoted Wyvern Lord. Wyvern Lord is the promoted version. I've been saying the wrong thing the whole time, but you know what I mean. With the help of Wolt, we can kill the promoted Wyvern Lord. As for everyone else, Rutger is going off on a quest on his own. There's a silent staff, which he may have already gotten. I believe he's already picked it up at this point. I wasn't paying too much attention. And his goal was to get a warp staff. There is a warp staff down the bottom right of the map. To get there, he has to brave a lot of enemies. There's 4 Wyvern Riders, again, one of which is a promoted Wyvern Lord. He's already killed a few. And there's roughly 4 mages, one of which is a promoted Light Mage, which is a bishop. They all hit really hard, and he has to get a number of lucky dodges to survive. But luckily for me, in this particular run, he does live, of course, otherwise you wouldn't be seeing it. Unfortunately, much like with the boots and the member card, I don't end up getting the warp staff. However, in this particular instance, it's for lack of trying. By the time I got Rutger to the point where he could potentially go looking for the warp staff, the reinforcements of the map were starting to pour in, and I really couldn't spare any units to go looking for such a thing. Speaking of, another reason why this map is annoying, reinforcements. Lots of reinforcements. Reinforcements from turn 7 basically onwards to like turn 18, which is about the entirety of the map. If you don't clear this map by by turn 25, then you miss out on a guidance chapter, which of course means that you miss out on getting the true end to the game. So you need to clear this chapter sooner rather than later. 25 is still a reasonably long time to be able to clear a chapter, but it does mean that you can't spend forever looking for these items, and I decided to just give up on the warp staff. Again, much like the boots, would have been very, very helpful, very, very useful, and it's a mainstay of any run that is low turn count or any skilled run in general. But unfortunately, I'm going to take what I can get and just clear the chapter. It was already pretty hectic by the time I cleared, as you'll see. So Rutger actually has a Lance Reaver on right now. These Wyvern Lords are not as scary as they would seem because of that. They only have about 11% chance to hit him with their Steel Lances, and as long as he crits at least once, they should die in 1 turn, so they're really not as threatening as they may initially seem. The mages are a much bigger threat because Rutger's Light Brand is running out, he can't possibly kill them all, and they do a really decent chunk of damage to him if they hit. Unfortunately, Rutger's not going to crit that one, but that's fine because of the desert, none of my units can reach that far anyway. Milady is braving it out on her own up the top left, still looking for that member card. She should be able to kill this guy next turn. I'm going to drink a vulnerary just to be safe so she doesn't die. There are also a few Manakeets lying around the map. Now they also have their movement cut and they don't move unless they've been aggroed, but it is quite annoying if you just so happen to step into their range because obviously being Manakeets they do a lot of damage, they always have a little bit of crit, and they have a lot of HP as well. Very deadly units unless you have a Worm Slayer. Or a legendary weapon I guess, but I'm not using any. So, we're not even halfway through the map, we're about a third through the map here. You see just how painful it is to move through this desert with all my units. The absolute majority of my units have their movement cut really severely, and a lot of them are just sort of dead weight. Ward really can't do much. He gets hurt really badly by the mages, and he just can't get close enough to the wyverns to actually help out wherever they show up. You'll see here, Rutger's going to be very lucky to live this turn, and this wyvern rider is almost going to die. Going to get javelined next turn. So Rutger's really low. The physics staff was the MVP of this chapter. Yeah, Rutger almost died. And that's going to be something we'll see a few more times throughout the chapter here. Physics stuff is going to be the MVP. It's almost out at this point. I think by the end of the chapter it has one use. But we've definitely gotten some good use out of it. I have definitely done a few really stupid heals with it, so it could be a little bit higher by this point. But that's okay. We'll take what we can get. I decided to kill the wyvern here. I know it does less damage than the rest of them, but it's also a bigger threat to the rest of my army. I know mages can move further, but the mages are not that much of a threat. If the wyvern rider got close to one of my squishies like Cecilia, Wolt, Sue, it would probably kill them. So that's the general plan here. I'm looking for this silver card still with Milady. She's going to get a level up. HP skill, not the best. She's gotten, in previous runs, she had strength speed level ups a few times, but it's fine. Her stats are already really good after the speed wings. She's fantastic and she'll be better after promotion, so I don't really need her to get fantastic level ups, although it would be appreciated. So the general plan of attack here is send Lance towards the boss. The boss is a hero with a light brand. He has a lot of HP and generally decent stats, but he's not a real threat to Lance, because Lance is really good. Lance is OP. And here we're going to see the start of the bad reinforcements. So we saw that the Desert Twins, we get a series of 2 Berserkers, being those mini-bosses, and a bunch of Brigands from this point onwards. I think there's a 1-turn rest after this turn where there are no reinforcements, but from that point onwards up until turn 18 there will be constant Brigand reinforcements. Granted, Brigands are not the scariest thing in the world because of their hit, but they do have a lot of might. They can do a lot of damage to whatever they actually make contact with, if they make contact with, which makes them a risk factor that I really just don't want to take. So here with Rutger, the mages are still a threat. He definitely has a chance of death, or rather he had a chance of death last turn. He's going to end up killing another one this turn, and from that point I think he's safe here. I don't think he can die even if both these mages hit him at this point, but he definitely had a few turns there where he was in danger of dying very badly. I also obviously need to move Roy up to the throne as quickly as possible because he needs to seize. A better player than me probably would have used Milady to ferry Roy or Lance up to the boss and get this chapter done way more quickly than I did. Nice level up from Sue there, by the way. But unfortunately, I wanted that silver card. I really did. It's a big shame that I didn't end up getting it. But perhaps this is just payback for all the arena abuse I did back in chapter 7. I still have quite a decent amount of money left over from that. And of course, if things get too dicey, I can sell some of my chest keys that I don't need, but I would rather not use them. So here we're going to see just how barely Rutger lives. He was so close to death all these last 3 or so turns. Really dicey. This is not a strategy you should be copying in any means. I definitely had to restart quite a few times. But again, you shouldn't be using these units in this specific part. You're kind of a lunatic if you're bringing Bors to a Desert Fog of War chapter. Like, at that point, I gotta question your sanity, man. I guess you should question my sanity because I'm doing it, but yeah, that's the rules of the game, man. That's the rules of the game. Have to use one more physic here on Rutger because I can't get any units over there to help. I would either have to rely on a dodge or physic him up. And I'm not going to rely on a dodge this far into the chapter. I decided to kill the mage that I have, rather the mage that does more damage per hit. It doesn't matter at this point because the other one can't kill him anyway. But, you know, that was my thought process there. Slowly but steadily moving up this force. I believe all the sleep staves at this point have been used or the users have been killed, which is great. I really hate playing around staves, especially when I only have one healer in range and he has to spend his turn using the restore staff. Really sucks. Milady being a champ here. Milady is so good, even unpromoted. Her attack and defense are just fantastic. I was honestly considering giving her the Draco Shield for this chapter just to help her survive all those 4 wyverns at the beginning, but it didn't end up mattering. And you see, as you saw with her position last turn, I put her in range of that mercenary. She's already given up looking for that silver card. More reinforcements are going to spawn from the top, and they are brigands, meaning they have weapon triangle over her. I was not in any way going to leave her in range of all those guys. And speaking of in range, I just barely didn't have Rutger in the range of that Manakete. Rutger easily would have died in one hit from that Manakete. I don't doubt it whatsoever. And we're going to have Bors be picked up soon. He's just too slow at this point. The Berserkers are going to catch up. They have 3 move in the desert. For some reason, mine doesn't. I guess Ward isn't a Berserker, he's a warrior. Forgive me, that was dumb. But we are going to have Bors be picked up because he's just too slow. 1 move does not cut it when you have 3 move Berserkers that have crit and 27 strength running after you. Like, I don't care how much defense you have, man, you're not living that. Absolutely not. We'll torch stuff here just to see a little bit more of the map. It doesn't really help at this point, but, you know, I mean, he wasn't going to do anything else with his turn. May as well have a bit more visibility. There's a few heroes and mercenaries on the top ridge there, but they're not too big of a threat. Lance can basically take on all of them because Lance is crazy good and doesn't die. So we get our first look at the Berserker here in the fog. I believe we'll highlight him in a second. He actually has a halberd, which is really bad because the only unit of mine that can sort of fight him is Marcus. Marcus would probably die in 1 hit, although I don't get the chance to test it. Speaking of the chance to test it, I do get the chance to test that right there. Yeah, Rutger would have died against that Manakete, for sure. For sure. And there's also a few mages over here as well. Saul is going to take some damage from that because, again, none of my units can actually move up far enough to help out. Lance is locked to 2 movement for the entire map. And with Marcus and Sue, the name of the game right now is basically run away, because the Berserkers have more movement than they do, so they need to just clear as much ground as possible until some of my stronger, more able units can move in and fight the Berserkers instead. Lilina is definitely very useful this map because she actually has move and she has healing utility. So I can actually get a lot done with her. But unfortunately I only have 1 of her, so either I attack or I heal. And Saul, as of right now, can only do 1 of those things. He can only heal. So I really don't have too much utility in that regard. I often want to attack with Lilina because she does so much damage. Speaking of a lot of damage, we'll have Lance here, kill that guy. I think that guy had some crit on Lance, but at this point, I really just need to suck it up and take the chance. 3% isn't a lot, and I'm gonna bank against it. And luckily Lance lives, of course. So we're gonna have Marcus equip the Iron Sword here, just in case the Berserkers are faster than I think they are. At this point I was sweating. This map is just it's very difficult, very difficult, and I never want to play it again, especially not under these conditions. You saw a little skip there. I apologize. Something came up, and I had to just pause recording real quick, which is why I'm sort of playing this turn a little bit more slowly. I'm just getting my bearings again. I decided to put Roy down because I don't think Milady can make it to the boss on her own at this point. She's great, but against heroes and mercenaries and multiple of them, I don't think she would make it. I don't think it's a wise idea. So I'm sending Rutger off to the left here, because he's one of the very few units I have that can actually handle these Berserkers and Brigands. And up the top here we're seeing our threats, we're seeing those heroes. So we're really getting closed in on here. We have to end this map sooner rather than later at this point. Because if we dilly-dally too long, we're just gonna die. We're just gonna get surrounded and die. Unfortunately, Lance can't kill these guys in 1 round. I think I'm using the Killer Lance at this point, and we are very close to having a Manakete just destroy us. Wolt could have gotten a kill there, but of course Wolt being Wolt is just gonna not help at all. I mean, I guess he's been more useful than Sue has been this chapter, but even so, he could stand to be a little bit more useful. I'm gonna bash Wolt for the entirety of this run. I really am. Bad unit. Bad unit. I'll never understand why people like him. I decided to try and have Milady spend a few turns looking for the warp staff. But I think she only spends 1 before brigand reinforcements start spawning, and I decide it's just not worth it with that weapon triangle disadvantage. She doesn't find it there. I don't know if she's exactly in range of it. I believe she is. I believe she could have potentially found it that turn, but she didn't. I don't know the exact formula for how to pick up items. I think it's related to luck in some way, except on thieves. On thieves, you have a significantly higher chance of finding hidden items, but of course we can't bring any thieves to this map. We can't bring any thieves to any map in general. If one was force deployed, I probably would have used them if I could, if it was feasible. But no such luck. Instead, we get a Valkyrie with 2 movement and a level 1 Shaman, level 1 Dark Mage. Fantastic. This Berserker is really catching up on me, and it's terrifying. I really don't want to know how much damage he does to Marcus with that halberd. Probably way too much. Way too much. Not gonna risk it. These heroes are also very, very bulky and are quite annoying because Lance doesn't like to get a lot of crits. And here, after seeing how close these brigands are to Milady, I decide, you know what, this warp stuff isn't worth it. It's a very nice addition in any game, in any kind of run, but I think I will skip it here. Just look at this enemy density, look at all these guys, and it's scarier than it looks, not because the enemies are that scary, but because I can't run away from them. I don't have the movement to feasibly hold these guys off. I have like 2 units that can move properly through the desert, and another one like Rutger who can just barely make it places. He's gonna have to use the silver sword. I know he can crit fairly reliably, but crit and reliable don't really belong in the same sentence, so I opt to put a silver sword on him just so that he guarantee kills all these brigands. A lot of them have hand axes though, so his enemy phase is going to be somewhat wasted, but I think he only has 1 useful light brand left at this point, which is obviously just not worth breaking here. And thanks to Wolt, I can get this kill on this hero this turn, which is great, because otherwise that hero probably would have wrecked Saul or Sophia or something like that. That was a very necessary kill right there. So Wolt did something. Wolt's done 2 things this chapter. Well done, Wolt. I'm gonna leave Roy in range of the brigands with the Owl Sword. I figure that he can double and maybe kill. I am wrong. Roy cannot double these guys. It could be because the Owl Sword weighs him down. I don't actually know. But I think with the Iron Sword he wouldn't kill anyway, so yeah, it doesn't matter. Same result would have happened either way, I feel. I decide to see what Milady can do against this hero, but this guy has a killing edge, and I know she wouldn't die from that, but it would leave her pretty close, and I'm not going to risk it. I think Lance can handle them just fine. So we saw the screen pan there just for a second, which shows you reinforcements are spawning from the top, as we know. That's why it's so important that Milady isn't still looking for the silver card. And yeah, we're long past the stretch of desert where the boots are found, and we didn't find them. Very unfortunate. Bors could have maybe been a little bit useful if we had found those, but alas, we did not. So yeah, Roy doesn't double this guy. Unfortunate. Probably would have done a similar amount of damage if he doubled with the Iron Sword anyway. And a lot of these brigands have hand axes, as I mentioned. It's really quite annoying, but this entire map is annoying. There's so many factors that go into this map being ridiculously frustrating. I don't know if I would call it badly designed, but aggravating, definitely. Absolutely. Here I'm going to put Bors down. I figure there's no point having him be carried anymore. He's not going any further. This is basically where our units are going to have to make their final stand. And this Berserker is in range of Marcus, or rather Marcus is in range of the Berserker. Milady can't pick Marcus up. She's not strong enough. But luckily, I believe Ward can. I just didn't want to test it. I think Marcus could probably have lived, or at the very least he could probably have dodged, but I'm not even gonna give that guy the opportunity to try that out. It's just not gonna happen. Lilina can't double, and I think even if she could double, she'd have to be using one of her heavy strong tomes to kill. So instead, we're just gonna have Rutger take the chance, and we'll have Lilina right behind him for heals. She actually does take a lot of damage from those hand axe brigands, but they have fairly low accuracy, and at this point I was just thinking I have to take some risks. If I'm not taking risks, then I'm just going to lose. If I play it safe at this point, I'm going to lose. Here, I finally get a crit. That hero goes down, and that means that Wolt is safe to come over here and actually kill this bandit, which is great news. Just a fantastic turn of events here. He's going to get HP luck, which is a very Wolt level up, continuing to not impress whatsoever. And I'm going to attempt to sleep one of the berserkers here. It has a 70% chance to hit. I believe I already used one on a hero earlier that also had a 70% chance to hit, and they've both missed. Both my 70% sleep stave hits have missed, meaning that my sleep staff has been 2/3 wasted. It has done nothing for 2 out of its 3 uses, which is just fantastic. Just fantastic indeed. Milady actually does decent against these mercenaries, so I'm going to leave her up there. She 2-hit KOs that one. Unfortunately, she only 3-hit KOs the other one, which is going to be a little bit annoying later on. And here I'm just double checking hit rates with Lilina. I decide to leave her in range because, again, as I said, at this point I have to take risks. So Rutger's actually going to get hit by that guy, luckily not crit. That would have been the end of the run, of course. Absolutely would have died. Another mercenary will be taken out by Milady up the top. And unfortunately, she's 1 damage short of 2-hit KOing that one. So I try to hit him with a javelin, and that doesn't work out well for me, as we'll see. Wolt's going to get a fantastic crit there. That also really helps a lot. As much as I've been bashing on Wolt, Sue was definitely the least useful archer of the two, at least for this chapter in particular. I think Wolt got that crit because of the support with Roy, actually, which is nice. Support's coming into play. So things are getting really hectic here. Both the brigand bosses are basically at our doorstep, and they are terrifyingly strong. I can't reach that other mercenary with anyone else as of right now, and I'm very scared of sending Milady even further ahead, just in case there are more enemies up there that she can't deal with at her lowered health. Which there probably are, knowing FE6. I decide to give the sleep staff one last try on the other berserker that we haven't fought yet. And it finally works. We finally get a sleep to land. All of them should have landed. They all had like a 70% chance to land, but they just didn't, because that's FE6 for you. But that guy's asleep, so he's basically out of it for the rest of the chapter. He's not going to wake up. He is as good as dead, so Saul has contributed so greatly this chapter. And here Sue had a chance to get a kill. It would have given her a lot of experience, but unfortunately she misses her second shot, or was it for her first shot? And I'm going to have to pick her up with Ward. Of course, there's no way in hell we're letting that berserker boss live. Cecilia is too far away to pick up, to put down Sue, rather, to rescue drop her. Here I'm gonna try to javelin this guy. I figured it might be the safer option, but unfortunately I will miss. I mean, here the hit rate isn't fantastic. It's only 59. I can see why she missed twice, but it is still definitely unfortunate that she did that. We'll put Sophia just out of range. Sophia has to be up close and not being carried by somebody, because she and she alone can find a guiding ring a little bit further up than where she is. Rutger's going to get a level up strength. That's fine with me. So yeah, I definitely need that guiding ring for Saul, who will actually receive it by the end of the chapter. And with Cecilia, we're just going to move up. The rest of the enemies are not necessarily huge threats. There's just a lot of them, and it's difficult to maneuver around them. This guy's going to go for Milady, and Milady will again fail to hit him, which just wastes more time, really, is all it does. At this point I'm running out of time though. There are more reinforcements, and as I said, there will be more reinforcements right up until turn 18. So I really can't afford these sort of hiccups where Milady is not killing. And I really need to send Lance up to the boss, so I didn't want to kill that mercenary with him. Sophia will get that guiding ring. As opposed to the other items, she actually has a 100% chance to get that guiding ring, because it's locked to her. It's a specific Sophia thing that only she can find. Just looking over damage numbers here, I decide Roy is probably going to be my best bet for taking down this guy. I decide one more time with the javelin to try to kill him. It doesn't work, because of course it doesn't work. And I decide, you know, I'm not going to rely on Wolt here. I'll just kill him with Lance, and that should do. We'll move up Cecilia once more, move up Wolt once more. He's out of range still because luckily the enemies are as affected by the dirt, by the sand rather, as I am. And with Wolt and Lilina, again I have to just sort of brave a hit. Lilina won't die in one hit, but she will die in two to a hand axe. So she's fine here, but she definitely could have died earlier in the chapter. Because her magic is so high, she can basically fully restore units even with just a heal staff, which is why she's so good as a healer. You'll never need to bring a mend on her, just because her magic is so goddamn high. And Saul was just barely out of range of that brigand there. I'm going to move him up as well in case I need him closer to the boss. Lilina should be able to handle all the healing that I need for the units I still have down in the middle of the map. You see Bors there being incredibly useful. Bors was a bigger hindrance this map than he has ever been in any other map so far. One move and 80% of the enemies are axe units. That's just a recipe for disaster for him. I don't care how high his defense is. And the rest of them were like Wyvern Lords that had 50 trillion attack and defense that he wouldn't have been able to damage anyway. So just very unfortunate stuff right there. Lilina gets speed on her level up, which I should mention because that's really good. 17 speed already. She's a fantastic unit, as I knew she would be. I decided to just visit that house with Sophia just because I can. I know there's nothing in there, but I wanted to. And here's the moment of truth. How much damage do I do against this guy? Lance actually does fairly well. If he can get a crit or two, he should be able to kill. The boss does have some crit on him, and as we know from our experience with Rutger, that can be deadly. But he doesn't actually die to a single crit. So, if he's at full health, that is. So he is fine to brave the boss on enemy phase. I really need to start killing these bosses because these brigands are ganging up on me. I actually managed to find the silver blade with Marcus here, which is pretty funny. I don't think I'm going to end up using that weapon. I'll probably sell it at some point. But it's interesting that I managed to find that. That'll be the last of the hidden items that we managed to find, unfortunately. We will not be getting the silver card, boots, or warp staff, which are basically like 3 of the items that I wanted the most. Very unfortunate, but I'm happy just to be done with this chapter, to be completely honest with you. I'm in no way going to redo all of this just for a warp staff and half the cost in shops and stuff. So this turn I start getting a bit greedy because we can see mercenaries are starting to gang up close to where the boss is. And I only have one combat unit at the boss, that being Lance. And Lance is preoccupied with the boss. So I need to kill him sooner rather than later. Marcus doesn't double these brigands anymore. He'll be getting the speed wings we found this chapter, next chapter. Which is why I wanted them so bad. It's why I sent Lilina down there in the first place. Here, I'm just looking over them. I really desperately wanted to click that attack button, but I decide it's not worth it. I'll just heal him first, and then I'll do it. And see if I can get that crit, because if he can get the crit, then he can kill the boss, I believe. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen. He doesn't get hit, but he also doesn't get a crit. And he will get a level up here of strength, speed, res. Fantastic. Well done. So here I think, okay, Wolt can do it. Brave Bow, he can do it. But I wasn't paying attention to the hit rates. He only has 47% chance, and so he gets double hit. And here I'm in a situation where I have to either rescue Saul or Wolt out. And I have to rescue Wolt out because I think Wolt dies if given one more round with the boss. So at this point I was just praying that Saul doesn't get killed by the boss. I'm just thinking, please do not kill Saul. Whatever you do, don't kill Saul. I have to put Roy in front of Saul as well, just so the mercenary doesn't kill him. Luckily for me though, the boss has a light brand as I mentioned earlier, and at 2 range the light brand targets res, which Saul actually has quite a decent amount of. So Saul would have lived even if he got hit twice, although obviously if he got crit he would have died. Here I'm just doing what I can with my remaining units. The other brigand boss is still asleep as of right now, so he's not a threat. But everything else is. Just look at all these brigands, look at them all. Oh, sorry, voice crack. Just look at all these brigands, it's crazy. I can't handle this many brigands. I mean Rutger can handle this many brigands. But even Rutger, if he got hit by all of them, would die. They have 17 strength. Yeah, as I was saying, Rutger can handle the rest of these brigands. Sorry, I got interrupted just there real quick. So I've just lost my train of thought. But that's alright. Here I was just desperately hoping that Saul would live. He easily would have. If he got crit, of course, as I said, he would die. Roy's going to face tank that mercenary so that he doesn't go for Saul as well. And that's basically GG at that point. Obviously things could still go very wrong. Lilina eats an axe to the face there, very deadly as we can see. Luckily no one else is in range with a hand axe. Except that guy, but he's not in range of Lilina. And at this point, one more turn with the boss and Lance will kill him. After this lengthy enemy phase, because all of them have 2 range. Wow, brilliant design. Thanks for giving them all 2 range. So here, finally kill this guy with Lance after he misses 1 hit. We'll get our first and last crit on the guy, which we didn't need at all. And that's basically GG at that point, because Roy is in range to conquer, so I decided to just spend the rest of the turn doing some extra stuff. I will actually manage to promote here with Saul. He'll finally get his promotion. It's long overdue. Long overdue. He's been capped for quite a few chapters at this point, but no more. He will finally be a bishop, and he actually has some decent stats. He's not a bad unit whatsoever. Bit of a res tank too. He can actually... No, wait, he can't still move. I was looking at Sophia. So I decided to just get some last minute experience here with the rest of my units. Milady doesn't die to that. I was just double checking that Roy can conquer, because at this point I don't want anything to go wrong. Milady doesn't get that hit, so she's only going to get 1 experience, but experience is experience in any form. Marcus will attack this bandit, get some experience on him. Should be able to finish that guy off with Lilina or Ward even. Yeah, I'm not taking any chances whatsoever. If there's a chance of death, I'm not doing it. So I'll instead just heal with Lilina. Get that staff rank up and that experience up. I'll try to get some damage in with Sue, but she's going to surprise me and crit and get the kill. Well done, Sue. Shit, that's like the first actual bit of damage she's done all chapter, I think, unless I was just not paying attention. Ward's gonna miss because that's what Ward does. Rutger can actually get a kill here, just barely on the brigand on the left, as we see here. So he'll do that, get some more experience out of that. Bors can do absolutely nothing, and Roy's going to conquer after Sophia visits the shop just briefly to get some staves and tomes. So that's the chapter. My god, am I glad to be done with this chapter. What a shit heap. Pardon my French. I hate this chapter. Really annoying. I want boots. I wanted the boots and the card and the staff and the warp staff, but I didn't get them, and that makes me mad. Thanks for watching. See you next time.